Week 2 of the NFL season is all but 2 Monday Night Football games in the books. And as we do, let's discuss the winners and losers from Week 2 NFL action. All right, so we have to start off with who, in my opinion, was the biggest winner of the day. And hands up, I overreacted to this team in week 1. I was guilty of that. I was wrong about them. The Detroit Football Lions. The Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears 52-21, and we're going to talk about them. And I just think it's, worth pulling up the box score here. You could see Detroit wins 52-21. Jared Goff, 23 of 28 for 334 yards, 5 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 12 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 receptions, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But, I mean, you could even go further for Detroit here. David Montgomery gets in the end zone, averages 5.2 yards per carry. Jameson Williams, 2 for 108 and a touchdown. Laporta, 3 for 26. Brock Wright, 3 for 28 and a touchdown. This was the Detroit Lions team from last year back at it again. And maybe week 1 was more a story about the Green Bay Packers than it was the Detroit Lions. And we're going to talk about the Bears in just a minute here. But I want to, for starters, again, on this channel, I'm not some person who's willing to not admit when he's wrong. I was wrong about Detroit. I thought that this team's window had gotten past them the way that they were very aggressively dominated in the trenches by Green Bay. I thought they were cooked. This was Detroit Lions football. The 52 points was a statement. And I know some people accused Detroit of running up the score on Chicago, and I guess in a way that they did, going for it on 4th and goal. But like Ben Johnson said, it's just who Dan Campbell is. What's he supposed to do? Change his identity for me? That is the Detroit Lions identity. In this game, I thought was very important. Perhaps the most important of the Detroit Lions season. Back-to-back divisional games to open up the year is brutal for anybody. But 0-2 is not fully, but almost a playoff death sentence. Teams that start 0-2 have a 12% chance of making the playoffs. And you're going to hear me say that stat multiple times throughout this video. And the Detroit Lions didn't want to be in that spot. The Detroit Lions came out hungry, aggressive, ready to prove everybody who got up and used a microphone and said that they were washed right here wrong. And they did that. The Detroit Lions went out there and did their damn thing. And not only did they look like the team from last year, they looked like the best version of the team from last year. The defense was firing. The defense was getting pressure. The offense was the best in football for the weekend. I mean, 52 points is 52 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown showed why he's been in top 5 wide receiver conversations. Jahmyr Gibbs showed why he's been in top 5 running back conversations. Jared Goff showed why last season he was a Pro Bowler in MVP conversations to an extent. And the Detroit Lions proved that they're not going anywhere. Are they a Super Bowl favorite? Are they ready to take on Green Bay again? Maybe not. But a team that had an offensive coordinator turnover, a defensive coordinator turnover, and 2 key pieces of their interior offensive line turning over, and when I say we, I include myself in this, should have given them more time. The amount of talent on this roster, there's no denying it. It is from a talent perspective, on paper, a top 5 to 7 roster in football without a doubt. And a top 5 to 7 roster deserves time to figure it out when they lose both coordinators. Deserves time to figure it out when they lose most of their interior offensive line. And listen, Detroit has, I believe, Cincy in a couple weeks with a Burrow injury. Well, what's Detroit's schedule coming up? What is it here? I mean, this is on the fly type type stuff here because I'm just wondering, are we going to be? They play Baltimore next week, then versus Cleveland, then at the Bengals, then at the Chiefs. Uh, we'll see what their record is over the next 6 weeks. Baltimore next week, Monday Night Football. Maybe Baltimore wins that game and Detroit falls to 1-2. I think this game showed not to overreact to that. This game showed me, let's give Detroit a month and a half to be consistently firing on all cylinders again. But the potential to be back to where they were is absolutely there. In this game, Jared Goff was dealing. Dan Campbell coaching his ass off. You saw him talking to the players, talking with Jared Goff on the sideline, the post-game celebration. Detroit, to me, feels all the way back. They feel like a team that it's worth believing in again. They feel like a team who saw all the haters and said, right here, buddy, right here. And good for them. The NFL is more fun when Detroit's good. Because not only are they good, they are a fun watch. They are a fun watch. The Detroit Lions, I overreacted. Hand up. They're still one of the elite teams in the NFL. Their opponents, however, were one of the biggest losers on the day. The Chicago Bears fall to 0-2 on the season. The Ben Johnson era has not kicked off the way that they wanted. You really wish you had held on to that Minnesota Vikings game. Now, if you're a Bears fan, especially after Sunday Night Football, I'm not even necessarily convinced that the Vikings are a better team than the Bears, but playoff spots are going to be hard to come by in the NFC, especially and in this division with Green Bay and Detroit, who are clearly tiers above Minnesota and Chicago. Only one of those teams could even have a breath of a shot of getting into the playoffs. And Minnesota with the win over Chicago in Chicago right now is just a disaster. But in this spot, Chicago looked soft, man. Chicago looks really soft. Detroit bullied them for 4 quarters, and there just wasn't fight in this team. There were a couple good plays. Rome Odunze in year 2 looks like an absolute star. Ben Johnson, I do believe, has the makings of a good head coach. That's to be determined, though. We know he's a great offensive mind, but everybody said the same thing about Mike McDaniel. And here we are. We're going to be talking about the Dolphins in a little bit. He might be the first head coach fired this season. So am I ready to say after 2 games that it's all a Caleb Williams problem and none of it could be on Ben Johnson? No. I don't know if Ben Johnson's a good head coach. I don't know if Ben Johnson controls a locker room. I know today the Chicago Bears looked soft as a team. That's not just Caleb Williams. That defense got torched time after time as well and pushed around all day long. Was the offense great? No, not by any measure. Chicago, they put up 7 points in every quarter except for the third. And 21 points is usually enough to be competitive, but not on a day where you get 52 put on your head. Ultimately, the defense comes out looking worse than the offense in this spot. And you're going to see the narrative today be on those TV shows, podcasts, whatever it may be. And I'll do it right here for you. Is Caleb Williams' time in Chicago coming to an end? Do the Bears need to seriously consider benching Caleb Williams? And the answer to that, from me, is a resounding no. I thought Caleb has looked improved over the last 2 games. Not perfect, but improved. I feel like Caleb Williams, the last 2 weeks, has, in week 1, obviously, he showed glimpses in the first half of looking like a Pro Bowl level quarterback. And in this game, 19 of 30, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, 27 rushing yards again. 2 touchdowns, 1 turnover. It's not amazing. I'm not writing an MVP case for the guy, but I thought he did all right. With the pass rush that Detroit had in this game, I thought he did all right. So, no, I don't think benching Caleb Williams is the answer. But the reason why that the Bears are one of the biggest losers of the week is because that narrative is going to start. A team that was loud all offseason, a team that has a lot of noise around them, A team that had high expectations isn't living up to any of it. And now, big media is going to stir up more controversy. And we've seen Caleb Williams. And I will admit, this is a flaw of his, whether it's anxiety, too much in his head, something else. Mentally, I'm not sure he's strong. Mentally, I don't think the Bears team as a whole is strong. You go back all the way to that Hail Mary play last year. You have Tyreek Stevenson dancing on the sideline before the game's over, giving up a Hail Mary, and then the season goes off the rails. They allow that comeback to Minnesota last week, and then today they get bullied. This is a mentally weak football team. And Ben Johnson didn't fix that. And 0-2, we just talked about it. It's a 12% shot of making the playoffs. It's not very likely. And based on the number of teams that are 0-2 to open, my guess is only one of those 0-2 teams makes the playoffs. And we're about to talk about them in a second. It ain't the Bears. Another loser from week 2 of the NFL season was the Kansas City Chiefs, who now fall to 0-2 after losing to Philadelphia 20-17 at home. Kansas City loses last week to the Chargers, loses this week to Philadelphia. Two good teams now have beaten Kansas City in back-to-back weeks, and Philly, quite frankly, wasn't playing their best football. The Chargers might have been, but the Kansas City Chiefs, this is the worst start to a season in the Patrick Mahomes era. And the team's not healthy. The team's not right. Rashee Rice suspended the first 6 games. Xavier Worthy blows out his shoulder on the first play of the game versus the Chargers in Brazil. The offense, I do think, will bounce back. And I did mention that teams that are 0-2 have a 12% shot of making the playoffs. Basically, what that means is one of these 0-2 teams probably should make the playoffs. And again, if you asked anybody to bet money on who would it be, it's Kansas City. I'm not sitting up here hammering the drum saying the Chiefs are set to miss the playoffs. I don't think that that's the reality of things. I do think that Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Spags are good enough to overcome an 0-2 start. Baltimore did it last year and got to the playoffs, and many people thought that they were going to win the Super Bowl. And Kansas City, I think, will be able to overcome an 0-2 start this year and get back to the playoffs. However, the era of domination of the AFC going through Kansas City, Nick Wright on his show saying the Arrowhead Invitational, that to me, at least for the year, feels over. You lost to the Chargers already if you're Kansas City. That division, I don't know if it's yours for the taking anymore. You're 0-2. The Broncos are 1-1, should be 2-0. Thank you, lucky stars, that they fumbled that game away to the Colts. And either the Raiders or Chargers are leaving Monday Night Football 2-0. So you're already 2 back of the division. And if it's the Chargers, you already lost a head-to-head to them. You look around the AFC, Buffalo 2-0, and probably on their way to another division title. Could easily be the 1 seed. Baltimore bounces back and they're 1-1. In the AFC South, not that it's ever been competition. We'll see what the Texans do tonight. Colts are 2-0. This is a team that's probably going to have to go on the road for 3 straight playoff games. This is a team that's probably going to have to play both Buffalo and Baltimore to get back to a Super Bowl. This is a team who, even though they did both of those things 2 years ago, is a worse team than they were 2 years ago. This team, for the next 4 weeks still, with or without Xavier Worthy, is going to be very Patrick Mahomes dependent, and they have some more tough games ahead. Baltimore and Detroit in this stretch still without Rashee Rice. That sucks. Patrick Mahomes, again today for Kansas City, was required to be the leading rusher for them to be in the game, for them to score twice. There had to be a drive in which Mahomes used virtually only his legs 7 carries for 66 yards. Only 187 passing yards for Patrick in this game. There isn't guys to throw to. Travis Kelce had an okay first half, but boy, does he look washed. Travis Kelce's looking washed. Those allegations are there. Mahomes throws him a touchdown in the end zone, and not only does he drop it, he gives it to Andrew Makuba. The turning point in the game like that. So, when you look at this game, and you look at the Chiefs, this is the most dependent they've ever been on Patrick Mahomes to be special, and they're giving him the least to work with right now. You want to know why there's been chatter online about this team going out and acquiring Tyreek Hill? Go back and watch the offense today. The second leading receiver is Tyquan Thornton, a receiver that the New England Patriots drafted, another failed project of theirs that failed so miserably that they cut him. That is who Kansas City is having to rely on right now for offensive production down the field. This team, while they have, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL, and a guy who, when his career is all said and done, I do think will be in GOAT discussions. That is not enough right now. The defense lost a step, still very solid. But the offense, new offensive line pieces, figuring things out. No run game. This offense is not two-dimensional. Patrick Mahomes is two-dimensional. Kareem Hunt, 8 for 31. Isaiah Pacheco, 10 for 22. Back-to-back weeks of nothing burgers from your running backs. In a wide receiver room that honestly might be one of the worst in football. There's a reason this team is 0-2. Patrick Mahomes is the reason that the team's alive in games. You give this team a middle-of-the-pack quarterback, and I think we're talking about them as having a top 10 pick right now. They don't. They have Patrick. So they're still alive for the playoffs. But Kansas City, back-to-back weeks, we've seen it now. This is not a team equipped to win a division, let alone a conference, let alone a Super Bowl. Back to the winner's side now, a team that's in the AFC that might be equipped to win a Super Bowl, the Buffalo Bills, man. The Buffalo Bills beat up on the New York Jets 30-10. And listen, was that game a massive turning point for Buffalo in their season? And oh my God, Buffalo finally beat the Jets. That's a big deal for them. No. But I do think that Buffalo's leaving week 2 feeling damn good about themselves. 2-0. So you start off the season with 2 wins, 0 losses. Big dub there. The AFC East is just, it's already over. We're 2 weeks through the season and the AFC East is over. The Jets 0-2, Dolphins 0-2. The Bills play the Dolphins on Thursday, and we'll see how that goes. The Patriots 1-1, but a competitive game versus the Dolphins, who look like a bottom 5 team in football, so the Patriots might be bottom 10. Like, the division's over. Buffalo will win the AFC East. You could write that one. It's over. Set it in stone. The AFC, well, shit. You already got a win over Baltimore, so you have the tiebreaker there. So you're basically 2 games up on them. Your schedule is easier than Baltimore's, so probably you'll finish ahead of them in the AFC. Oh, look at that. Your normal biggest comp, Kansas City's 0-2. With a couple more weeks to go without Rashee Rice, and matchups with Baltimore and Detroit on the way. So I doubt that they go 4-0 over the next month. So they're probably, through 6 weeks at best, a 500 team. What's Buffalo going to be through 6 weeks? 6-0, 5-1, maybe 4-2. Definitely better record than Kansas City through 6 weeks. I could promise you that. We could just stamp that through approval now. You look around the rest of the AFC. Are the Chargers going? Is this their year? Maybe. Maybe the Chargers compete with you for the 1 seed. Houston with their offensive line? I doubt it. Buffalo through 2 weeks looks almost as much as a lock as you could have to be the 1 seed in the AFC. Josh Allen obviously is an MVP caliber player. He won the award last year. We all saw what he did on Sunday Night Football last week. This week, Buffalo, if they wanted to and put their foot on the gas, probably could have scored 45-50 against the Jets. I mean, they were just playing with their food from go. James Cook with that disgusting touchdown in this game. Kid's super dynamic. The running back might be back, baby. But Buffalo, the way that the AFC is positioning, in the way that just through 2 weeks they've already positioned themselves, is so incredibly massive. To have the AFC playoffs run through Buffalo would be a huge advantage. To potentially have Kansas City and Baltimore have to play each other before they play you would be massive. To only get to have to face one of them out of the bracket. Now, who knows the way Kansas City's playing? Buffalo might have to play them early because they might be a lower seed. But Buffalo has done everything right thus far. And the way that they have positioned themselves in their conference, they can't be overlooked. Buffalo, it's only been 2 weeks, but I think that the planting of the seeds for this to be Buffalo's year to come out of the AFC have already started. Back to the loser side, one of the teams that is also in that AFC East and Buffalo's opponent this upcoming week on Thursday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are 0-2, and the Miami Dolphins got dog-walked by the Colts, who better than expected, and the Miami Dolphins lose in heartbreaking fashion to the New England Patriots. Tua turned the ball over, has struck in back-to-back weeks on Miami. Mike McDaniel is 0-2. And I got to be honest, guys, Buffalo on Thursday primetime, all eyes are going to be on this Dolphins team. I've watched them the last 2 weeks. They stink, bro. They were better this week than they were in week 1. But this isn't a good football team. It might be. No, it not might be. It's a bottom 5 defensive football. Period. It's a bottom 10 offense in football. In Devon A-Chain and Tyreek Hill, without them, and obviously, like, you take away a team's 2 best offensive weapons, I hear you, where would they be? But the train has left the station, and it's about to fly off the tracks. When Buffalo beats the dog piss out of Miami on Thursday Night Football, do not be surprised if Mike McDaniel is fired and has coached his last game for the Miami Dolphins. Don't be surprised. This team is a disaster, and I'll probably save the rant for that Thursday Night Football game because you guys know I've been on this Miami ain't it train. It started 2 years ago after their playoff loss to Kansas City. That following year, when I said that's not a 500 football team, I got killed. I got crushed. They weren't, and everything's gone off the rails. You pay a bad quarterback, elite quarterback money, and you basically handcuff yourself to just being shitty. And the Dolphins are shitty, and they are one of the biggest losers of the NFL season thus far. And a win over the Patriots probably saves Mike McDaniel's job now, unless we see a surprise victory over Buffalo or maybe a competitive game. I don't even know if a competitive loss saves him at this point. It's over. Head coach probably gone. GM probably gone. Tyreek Hill probably traded. Bradley Chubb probably traded. Anybody who's not young probably gone. Minka, they might flip him again and try and get more pieces. The Dolphins this offseason will probably try to get Tua out of there if they can. Doubtful anybody takes on that contract, but I'm sure they'll try. This organization, it's bottom 5 in football. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL, and week 2 further cemented that. The team that beat the Dolphins in week 1, the Indianapolis Colts, man. The Colts are a team that when I came into the season and I had them predicted under 500, it just didn't feel right. The Colts are just one of those teams that always performs better than the credit they're given, I feel. And they're doing it so far. They're 2-0. And let's be honest, let's have a candid conversation here. The Broncos did shoot themselves in the foot in that game with a couple bad penalties. The Dobbins delay game that ended up making that drive result in a field goal that Will Lutz then missed. Then you had the penalty on the 60-yarder that the Colts missed at the buzzer, and that gets them a redo from 45 yards, and they win. And Bo Nix had, not an amazing game. I know statistically his first half was great, but the Broncos were sloppy. However, the Indianapolis Colts are a team that I don't think many people expected to be competing with the Denver Broncos this year. And not only did they compete, but they found a way to win the game. And in the NFL, that's what it's all about, man. Finding a way to win the game week to week. And the Colts are 2-0, undefeated. And we'll see what happens with the Texans tonight, because all of a sudden this game becomes pretty must win for Houston on Monday night, because you don't want to start off 0-2 and the Colts 2-0. You damn sure don't want that. The Jags lose in heartbreaking fashion to the Bengals and Jake Browning, and the Titans are bad. So, this division, I think it's already kind of easy to say it's going to be Colts Texans, one of those two teams. And the Colts have positioned themselves as best as they could up until this point in the season. Jonathan Taylor is an absolute engine for that offense. Over 200 all-purpose yards in that game. Made big play after big play. Had the 43-yard catch, had like a 70-yard run that somehow didn't result in a touchdown. He did have a receiving touchdown in the game. Tyler Warren, their first-round draft pick. Talk about coming into the NFL ready to play. This guy, last week he looked good against Miami. And it feels like kind of anybody could look good against Miami. This week he looked good against Denver. Denver's a top 5 defense in the sport. And Tyler Warren was out there balling against them. And then that brings us to Daniel Jones, man, who, this is a little bit of indictment on Brian Daboll, because Shane Steichen, who is a guy that I certainly believed in, and I have some Eagles bias there, no doubt about it. I think he's the best offensive coordinator the Eagles had in the Jalen Hurts era. Shane Steichen is a guy that I thought the Colts would be idiots to let go, because to me, their flaws were so clearly an Anthony Richardson problem. This was a guy in Richardson who couldn't complete a 5-yard out route. What do you want a head coach, offensive mind, a guy to do with that? And shit, man, Shane Steichen gets just a guy in Daniel Jones who could run an offense with a little bit of mobility, and all of a sudden, the Colts look like a top 10 offensive operation in football. It's only been 2 weeks, and is it possible that the Indianapolis Colts are this year's New Orleans Saints, who we're 2 weeks into the season and people are like, this team's going to the playoffs, this team's that, maybe, and they fall apart? It's possible. But this operation feels repeatable. You watch Colts games, and I've watched 2 now. They're not killing you with flashy plays. They're being methodical. They're being precise. They're picking up chunk plays. Schematically, Shane Steichen is scheming guys open, and Daniel Jones is getting through his progressions, reading the defense, and getting the ball to the guy that's open. And that, to me, rinse, repeat, feels repeatable. They got to stay healthy, but the offensive line is solid. Jonathan Taylor, again, we talk about some of these running backs that are the engines that drive their team. You look at the 49ers. When all healthy, McCaffrey was the engine that drove that team to a Super Bowl. Last year, Philadelphia's success came, yes, Jalen Hurts is good. Saquon Barkley, the engine that drove the team. The Indianapolis Colts can be a successful offense in 2025 behind a Jonathan Taylor engine that drives the team. As long as when Daniel Jones is called upon on 3rd and 4, he could read the field and see Josh Downs open on that slant. can see Tyler Warren open on that out route. And Daniel Jones even got a good enough arm that, hey, that Alec Pierce shot, that's there. That Michael Pittman crossing route for 15, 20 yards, that's there. And he takes it. He's got enough mobility. This is a resurgence for Daniel Jones, absolutely. But to me, Shane Steichen might go win himself a Coach of the Year award. When you look at the AFC playoff picture right now, and you start counting in playoff teams, Buffalo, Baltimore, the Chargers, you feel like Kansas City is going to get back. We'll even say Houston wins the South. You got 2 more spots open now with Burrow's injury, the Steelers' defense not looking great. Like the Colts certainly feel like a playoff team to me. And maybe it's an overreaction. Maybe they're the Saints. But at some point, you got to call it how you see it. And the Colts are playing some damn good football. That's at least how I see it. I call this portion of the video the turf toe portion of the video. We're going to start with one of the losers from this week. And it's a team that won their game, but it's the Cincinnati Bengals, man. And the Bengals win this game on the back of Jake Browning coming in. And it looks like Jake Browning might be one of the better backup quarterbacks in football. And Jake Browning's clearly high IQ. He says, I'm the backup, I'm coming in, and I got fucking Jamar Chase and I got T. Higgins. Let me throw those guys the rock, and let's keep it moving. And Jake Browning came in and did just that, and he kind of lit up Jacksonville. Jamar Chase, what a day for him. I mean, 14 receptions, a touchdown, over 100 yards. Like, this is why this guy's the best in football. Purely simple at that. But the Joe Burrow news that came out was devastating. This turf toe injury, which is torn ligaments in your toe, could obviously, typically, I believe fantasy football people and NFL fans that see this don't always know what turf toe is, but kind of think of it as a 2 to 3 week injury, similar to the Brock Purdy diagnosis. And Joe Burrow may have the worst case of turf toe I've ever seen. Reports are coming out from Schefter, Rappaport, Jay Glazer, you name it. All the sources are there. That Joe Burrow could miss 3 months with this injury. It might require surgery. And 3 months puts him out until mid-December. Jake Browning was great today. The Bengals with Joe Burrow, I questioned if they were going to be a 500 team. Does anybody out there think that without Joe Burrow, they're a 500 team? Because I'll tell you what, if mid-December rolls around and this team has 3-4 wins and 8-9 losses, Joe Burrow's done for the year. It is very possible that Joe Burrow played his last snap of football this season. And if you are the Cincinnati Bengals, one, brutal. Absolutely blows. You don't even want to say that out loud, and you're mad at me for saying it. And I get it. But 2, everything you did this offseason, the dragging of the Trey Hendrickson, the dragging of Shamar Stewart, the all-in on Chase Higgins Burrow, all comes crashing down. And based on paying Higgins, paying Chase, paying Burrow, the fact that you didn't extend Hendrickson and you kind of set it up for him to walk this upcoming offseason, felt like you were all in on the big 2025. And just like that, you're looking ahead to 2026. And you look around, you look at that defense, good. You look at that offensive line, not good. You look at Zach Taylor. Does he survive the year now? Does he go into next year because of the Burrow injury? I don't know. Either way, probably not good. And I said it at the time. I'll say it now. I love T. Higgins. That was irresponsible. That was an irresponsible use of money. Wide receivers are a dime a dozen. There's about 10 to 15 every draft that come out that are impactful in some way or another. Look at the Raiders, man. They drafted that Dante Thornton. What was that, day 2, day 3? And the guy's a starter for them. Look at Lab McConkey, man. Second round pick. And the guy is an absolute unit for the Chargers. Puka Nacua, day 3 pick. Top 5 receiver in football. Again, you're not going to just get Puka Nacua. But could the Bengals have given some of that T. Higgins money out to an offensive line and drafted Kyle Williams? Will they really be much worse off today? I don't know. Joe Burrow's probably still upright. And you still have Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, Gesicki, Yoshivas, and a yak guy in Williams. And if you traded Higgins before the draft, shit, like you probably got some extra picks for him to fill out that O-line and that defense. It was poor management. It was poor management. It always was. And if you were going to pay Higgins, you should have just paid him earlier. And you still would have had money. The Bengals, man, the definition of dysfunction, and it's week 2, and it's biting them in the ass. The last team I want to talk about today is a winner from week 2, the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy, turf toe injury. Told you this was the turf toe segment of the video, and we're talking about another guy with turf toe, Brock Purdy. He misses this game versus New Orleans. He'll probably be back in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll see when he gets back, but San Francisco on the road in New Orleans, not an easy place to play. 1 p.m. kickoff, aka their time, 10 a.m. kickoff. Backup QB, Kyle Shanahan, absolutely cooked. Mac Jones, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, absolutely balling in the game. And do I think that Mac Jones is the level of Brock Purdy? No. Do I think Kyle Shanahan coached his ass off in this game? And this is one of the games where it's like, thank God Christian McCaffrey's healthy. You better believe it. But for the Niners to be able to survive, Brock Purdy missing, Ayuk still missing, George Kittle missing, Juwan Jennings not 100%. And I get it. It's New Orleans. It's not a tough game, but the Rams are 2-0. The Cardinals are 2-0. The Seahawks are 1-1. The NFC West isn't exactly sleeping at the wheel to open up the season. San Francisco couldn't afford to just be dropping games. To be able to go into New Orleans and win that game was a massive win for them. They have a divisional win over Seattle already. This is a team that, with their talent level being, in my estimation, the second best in the division, but them having the easiest schedule in the division, could win the NFC West. They for sure feel like a playoff team to me, unless injuries completely derail the season, which for the 49ers we've seen. So, you can't rule out. But this was a spot where injuries could have cost you this game. And every game out of the 17 matters, man. Don't let it fool you. Every game matters. And for San Francisco to be able to survive the injury and to see what we saw out of them in this game. I want to pull up the stats here again, because I thought Mac Jones obviously played a good game, and I think that a lot of it had to do with Shanahan. 26-21 victory. Mac Jones, 26 of 39, 279, 3 touchdowns. Mac Jones, one of the better backups in football. The guy's a former Pro Bowler. I guess it was kind of one of those, we'll put him in the Pro Bowl because a bunch of people turned it down, but he's got former Pro Bowler on that Pro Football Reference page. And he commanded a good offense today, but Shanahan really schemed it nice for them, bro. Really schemed it nice. And you look at this Niners team and you're like, hey, they might have some juice, man. Salah's got that defense. performing at a decent level. You got Warner, you got Bosa, you drafted Mykel Williams. Those guys still figuring it out. It'll probably get a little bit better as the year goes on. You get Brock Purdy back out there healthy, Kittle back out there healthy, Ayuk off the pup. I'm telling you, man, these games early on in this season for San Francisco are going to matter. And this win in this game, it matters. Because in an NFC West, they stay competitive. And they got the Cardinals next week, the Jags the week after that. If Purdy had to rest those 2 games, could they go 1-1? I think they could. And then you got Rams, Buccaneers, Falcons, Texans. You probably need Purdy back for those games. So the Niners buy themselves some time, buy themselves some breathing room. Good for them. Their division looks competitive this year, so they're going to need it. I thought this was a big, big win for the Niners to go out there and get this W. Those are my week 2 winners and losers. Let me know what you guys think of this style video in the comment section down below. If you made it this far, hit the like button. 40 plus minutes of content. You had to have liked what you heard enough to stick around. If you love the NFL, hit the subscribe button. My Tuesday tier list will be out tomorrow. Tonight, the game plan is to do 1 reaction video to both Monday Night Football games. Wednesday, the podcast with Javon. And then we are back to Thursday Night Football, and we'll probably have a pretty epic Dolphins rant after Buffalo beats the ever-living piss out of them on Thursday. So I appreciate you guys' support. I will catch you next time. Peace.